The Galactic Empire had ruled the stars for centuries. Its fleets of warships patrolled countless systems, and alien worlds bowed under its authority. Fear and discipline were the Empire's tools. Every species knew their place. Rebellion was rare, and those who dared were swiftly crushed. The galaxy seemed orderly, cold, and unchallenged, until humans arrived. No one expected much from humans. The Empire had heard rumors of their small population, fragile bodies, and seemingly primitive technology. They were considered a curious but weak species, unfit to hold power or influence. But as Ambassador Lena Riker's ship emerged from hyperspace above the Imperial capital, whispers ran through the council chambers like a sudden wind. The humans were different. They were bold. Lena stepped onto the palace platform with a quiet confidence that seemed almost natural. She wore simple attire, but her posture, her gaze, and the calm in her voice commanded attention. The alien delegates around her, tall, armored, tentacled, and scaled, looked down at her with a mixture of amusement and disdain. Many assumed she was a child or diplomat in training, here only to be entertained. Lena smiled politely, bowing slightly, but there was a spark in her eyes that made even the proudest alien hesitate. "We come seeking peace," she said, her voice steady and clear. It was not loud, but it carried through the massive hall like a gentle wave that could not be ignored. The words were simple, but there was power in them, a power the Empire had never measured. The room was silent for a moment. Alien ambassadors shifted uneasily, unsure how to respond. They were used to intimidation, threats, and elaborate protocols. Humans, it seemed, did not follow the expected rules. Lena did not bow to fear. She did not boast of power. She did not demand. She simply existed with certainty, and it made others question their own strength. The chief imperial advisor, a towering creature named Vorlath, whispered to the council, "They are strange. Nothing in our records explains them." He had seen diplomats from dozens of species, some cunning, some cruel, some brilliant. But humans were something else entirely. They did not react with fear, greed, or anger. They reacted with understanding, and that unnerved him. Lena and her team were small in number. 3 other humans stood behind her, each scanning the room, observing, noting details that no alien diplomat seemed to notice. Their expressions were calm yet alert, as if every glance and gesture carried meaning beyond what could be measured. It was not aggression, but it was strength, a quiet, steady force that suggested no one could intimidate them. The Empire had expected a negotiation of ceremony, a polite exchange that would amuse their delegates. Instead, it felt like the arrival of a storm no one had anticipated. Aliens who had never seen humans before stared at Lena, feeling something unfamiliar. Curiosity mixed with caution, and perhaps even a hint of fear. The humans did not wield weapons or fleets in the room. They had no visible advantage. Yet the presence of these small, fragile beings shifted the energy of the hall. Lena took a slow step forward, scanning the council. Her eyes met Vorlath's, and she smiled again. Not mockingly, but with quiet assurance. She spoke again, softer this time. "We understand the galaxy is vast and trust is rare, but we believe in dialogue. We believe in cooperation. We believe that even in this vast universe, connections can change the course of worlds." The words were simple, almost poetic, but every listener felt them in their hearts. The tension in the room did not vanish, but it changed shape. Curiosity replaced disdain, caution replaced arrogance. Humans were not here to fight, or at least not in ways the Empire understood. They were here to challenge something deeper, the very assumptions the galaxy had made about power, influence, and strength. As Lena and her team waited silently, the council began to murmur. The humans had arrived not with weapons, but with a force far more dangerous, humanity itself. And no one, not even the Empire, yet understood just how far that force could reach. The Empire was cautious. Humans had arrived with grace and calm, yet their presence unsettled the most experienced alien delegates. The council decided to test them. If humans failed, they could be dismissed as harmless, but if they succeeded, well, the Empire had not considered the consequences. Ambassador Lena Riker and her team were assigned to negotiate with the Vork, a brutal warlike species known for their short tempers and love for conflict. Previous diplomats had failed miserably. No amount of intimidation or negotiation had ever tamed the Voric's aggression. Many council members whispered that sending humans there was a waste of time, a minor experiment in diplomacy. But Lena did not show fear. She studied the Voric carefully before meeting them. She learned their customs, listened to their histories, and observed their leaders. Every word, every gesture mattered. Unlike other species, humans did not rely solely on power or fear. They relied on understanding, empathy, and patience, the tools no alien counselor truly valued. When Lena and her team entered the Voric chamber, the atmosphere was tense. The room was massive, dark, and filled with shadows that moved like living things. The Voric chief, a towering figure with jagged scales and blazing eyes, growled at the humans. His voice echoed like thunder. "Why do you come here, fragile ones? Do you think we will bow to your words?" Lena smiled gently. "We do not ask for bows or fear," she said. Her voice was soft yet firm. "We ask for understanding. We come to learn, and we hope to be understood in return." The Voric laughed, a deep shaking sound that rattled the walls. Their counselors sneered, certain that humans would fail. They had seen warriors, conquerors, and tyrants. Nothing had ever made them pause, but Lena remained steady. She spoke slowly in simple words about respect, honor, and shared purpose. She acknowledged the Voric's strength, their history, and their fears. She did not insult, she did not plead, she did not threaten. She simply listened, and then spoke with clarity and confidence. Hours passed, and the Voric began to change. At first subtly, their growls softened, their weapons lowered slightly. Their eyes no longer burned with hatred but with curiosity. Lena noticed every shift and responded with patience. She built a bridge between fear and trust, one small gesture at a time. By the end of the negotiation, the impossible happened. The Voric agreed to a trade alliance and even pledged to share intelligence about nearby hostile systems. The humans had not fought them, bribed them, or outsmarted them with trickery. They had done the unthinkable. They had earned the respect of the fiercest warriors in the sector. When Lena returned to the Empire, the council was stunned. Murmurs filled the grand hall. "How?" asked Vorlath, the chief advisor. "They were humans. They have no fleets, no weapons, no psychic powers. And yet—" His voice trailed off. Lena reported the mission simply. "We did not fight them. We did not lie to them. We did not demand loyalty. We listened. We understood. And they responded in kind." The Empire realized slowly and with growing dread that humans operated on a level of influence no alien species had ever mastered. Humans could survive in hostile conditions, disarm the aggressive, and turn enemies into allies without a single shot fired. That night, council chambers burned with debate. Some feared humanity's power. Others underestimated it, believing it to be temporary luck. But no one could deny the truth. Humans were different, and in ways the Empire had not calculated. They were small, fragile, and yet unstoppable in a way the galaxy did not yet understand. The whispers began to spread. Across the Empire, soldiers, diplomats, and leaders started to speak of humans not as allies or envoys, but as a force to be reckoned with, a subtle, terrifying force. And though the humans themselves remained humble, quiet, and composed, the seeds of awe and fear were already planted. The Empire had sent humans to face their first real test. And humans had passed. But little did the Empire know this was only the beginning. Humanity's influence was not a weapon in the usual sense. It was something far more dangerous, the ability to change hearts, minds, and the course of the galaxy itself. Rumors spread quickly across the Galactic Empire. Humans, once considered a minor curiosity, were now being talked about in hushed, uneasy tones. Everywhere alien officials went, whispers followed. The humans are different. The humans are dangerous. Even the Empire's strongest generals felt a chill when their names were mentioned in the same sentence as Ambassador Lena Riker. Humans had not raised a weapon, nor claimed authority over any world. Yet they inspired loyalty in ways the Empire could not understand. Systems that had been on the brink of rebellion began cooperating. Old enemies set aside centuries of hatred to engage in dialogue. And in every case, it was humans at the center, calm and unwavering, guiding the change. Lena moved silently through star systems, always observing, listening, and understanding. She met leaders who were ruthless and cunning, warlords who thrived on fear, and politicians who had never learned trust. She did not judge. She did not threaten. She simply connected. And in return, those leaders began to reveal truths they had never shared with anyone. Hearts softened, alliances shifted, and hope spread. The Empire's council noticed, too late, that humans were unlike any other species they had encountered. Admiral Kor, a veteran of countless campaigns, warned urgently, "These humans are not just diplomats. They are instruments of change. They sway hearts faster than any fleet or weapon. They are a threat we cannot contain." But many council members laughed, dismissing his warning. "A species of fragile bodies and primitive technology? You exaggerate," they said. "What can they do against our fleets? Against our armies?" Kor shook his massive head. "You do not understand. They do not need fleets. They do not need armies. Where humans go, trust follows. Where trust flows, we lose control." Meanwhile, the humans continued their missions with humility and grace. In one system, Lena mediated between two species who had been at war for decades. One had burned the other's homeworlds, and the other had slaughtered the first's population. Any other diplomat would have walked away in fear or demanded surrender. Lena listened. She acknowledged the pain, the fear, and the anger on both sides. She spoke with clarity, honesty, and compassion. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the two sides began to talk. Not to threaten, not to boast, but to understand. By the end of the week, a fragile peace was formed. It was not an alliance born from fear, coercion, or technology. It was a bond born from humanity's ability to reach beyond instinct and see what others could not. The possibility of trust. Across the Empire, these victories could not be ignored. Alien diplomats began to fear humans. Not because humans could destroy them, but because humans could inspire others to rise against them. They whispered in private meetings, "If humans continue like this, what power do we truly hold?" Even soldiers hardened by centuries of combat hesitated when humans entered a room. Their confidence faltered not from threat of force, but from the undeniable presence of something else. Strength that did not need to be shown, authority that did not need to be demanded, and yet humans themselves remained modest. They did not gloat, did not boast, did not wield their influence to dominate. To them, every mission was about understanding, about connection, about the small victories that could change lives. Still, the Empire could feel the change. Systems once loyal without question now paused, reconsidered, and sometimes even resisted commands. Fear of the humans grew, not the kind that comes from danger, but the kind that comes from realizing one's assumptions, one's entire understanding of power, may be wrong. By the time Lena returned to the Imperial capital, whispers had become warnings. Humans were no longer simply envoys. They were a force the galaxy could not measure, a presence that could not be contained. And in the quiet corners of the council chambers, a single thought spread like wildfire. We have underestimated them. And it may already be too late. The stage was set. Humans had passed the test, and in doing so, they had awakened something far greater than the Empire had imagined. A force not of weapons or fleets, but of hearts, minds, and the unyielding strength of humanity itself. The Galactic Empire was uneasy. Human influence had grown faster than anyone could predict. Where humans went, old rivalries softened and alliances shifted. The Council realized that diplomacy alone might no longer contain the power of humanity. Fear and pride, the Empire's usual tools, seemed useless. In a shadowed chamber deep within the Imperial Palace, Minister Thalric, ambitious and cunning, whispered to a small group of conspirators, "If we remove their ambassador, the humans will falter. Their influence dies with her." He laid out a plan to assassinate Ambassador Lena Riker during a ceremonial gathering, knowing the act would destabilize human efforts and reassert the Empire's authority. No one knew humans like humans themselves. Lena had a subtle awareness that alien species rarely recognized. She noticed the smallest shifts, a hand that lingered too long, a shadow moving differently, eyes that darted with hidden intention. Instinct told her something was wrong before the first whisper of the plan reached the conspirators' lips. On the day of the ceremony, the grand hall gleamed with lights reflecting off crystalline walls. Delegates from dozens of systems had gathered, eager to witness humans in action. Lena walked among them with her usual calm grace, acknowledging bows and greetings with gentle smiles. She did not panic. There was no fear in her expression, only awareness. Minister Thalric's eyes followed her, calculating the perfect moment. He signaled an assassin hidden among the crowd. The figure advanced silently, a sleek weapon glinting in hand. The hall remained polite and lively, unaware of the danger closing in. Lena paused, sensing the subtle disruption in energy. She did not flinch. She simply turned her head and her gaze met the assassin's. There was no anger, no accusation, only a calm certainty that seemed to ripple through the air. The assassin froze. For the first time, uncertainty entered the mind of someone trained to strike without hesitation. Without a word, Lena moved, not in panic, but with deliberate control. Her team reacted instantly, positioning themselves between her and the threat. The assassin's plan, so carefully crafted, unraveled in moments. By the time Thalric realized what had happened, the threat had been neutralized without a single drop of blood spilled. The hall erupted in shock. Delegates whispered, murmured, and stared. No human had been harmed. No violence had been necessary. Yet the Empire's conspiracy had failed, humiliated in front of the galaxy. Minister Thalric's face paled. He had underestimated humans, believing them fragile and predictable. Instead, they were instinctive, resilient, and calm under pressure. The council watched in silence, realizing that this small, seemingly delicate species was untouchable, not because of weapons or fleets, but because of something far greater: awareness, courage, and unity. Later, Lena reported the incident simply. We were aware of danger and responded. No lives were lost. The goal of dialogue remains unchanged. Threats do not sway us. Her words were measured, humble, yet carried an undeniable authority. The Empire trembled in quiet fear. They had tried to destroy the human ambassador, assuming she was mortal, assuming she could be broken, and yet she emerged unshaken, commanding the respect of all who witnessed the event. Even those who sought her downfall now hesitated, unsure how to act against a species that seemed untouchable. Across the galaxy, the story of Lena's survival spread like wildfire. Humans were not merely envoys. They were symbols of strength beyond physicality. Even the fiercest warriors reconsidered what power truly meant. A weapon did not always explode. Sometimes it changed hearts. Sometimes it endured. For the first time, the Empire understood the truth. Humans were dangerous not because they fought, but because they survived, adapted, and inspired in ways no one had expected. Their power was subtle yet unstoppable. And though humans themselves never sought glory, their very presence had begun to reshape the galaxy. Minister Thalric and his conspirators were left in disgrace, while Lena continued her mission as if nothing had happened. Calm, poised, and compassionate, she walked among alien leaders, planting seeds of trust and unity. The betrayal had failed, but it had revealed something even more terrifying to the Empire. Humanity's strength was not in fear or force. It was in resilience, insight, and the quiet courage that could not be taken, bought, or destroyed, and so, humans continued to move through the galaxy undaunted, proving that the most dangerous weapon the Empire had ever faced was not built of steel or fire. It was built of human spirit. The Empire's council convened in haste. The incident with Ambassador Lena Riker had shaken them more than they wanted to admit. Minister Thalric had been humiliated. Generals whispered in fear. The human ambassador had not only survived the assassination attempt, but she had done so with a calm certainty that no one could explain. Admiral Kor paced the council chamber, his voice sharp. We have underestimated them for far too long. These humans, they are not soldiers, not diplomats, not spies. They are something else entirely. Their influence spreads faster than any fleet, stronger than any weapon. We cannot control them and we cannot predict them. Others scoffed at first. They are fragile, without fleets, without psychic abilities. What threat could they possibly pose? One counselor said, his scales trembling slightly as he spoke. But doubt had already planted its seeds. Everywhere the Empire looked, human influence was growing. Worlds that had never listened now sought dialogue. Warlords that had fought for centuries now hesitated before humans. And always it was the same. Peace, understanding, and cooperation followed their presence. The humans themselves were unaware of the full extent of the fear they caused. Lena and her team moved quietly from system to system, mediating disputes, offering guidance, and listening. Their words were simple, their gestures humble, but their effect was profound. In one colony torn by rebellion, Humans persuaded two rival factions to meet in council. Hours of tense discussion passed, with accusations and threats flying. Yet Lena's calm, unwavering presence allowed both sides to speak honestly and safely. By nightfall, they had signed a fragile peace agreement. Reports like these reached the Empire daily. Alien ambassadors grew wary. Even soldiers who had seen countless battles hesitated in the presence of humans. The humans never carried weapons openly, never displayed aggression, yet they commanded respect and attention beyond any known measure. Kor spoke again, frustration in his voice. They cannot be destroyed. They cannot be manipulated. Any attempt to threaten them only strengthens their position. Every time we act against them, they adapt, they survive, they grow stronger in influence. They are invincible in ways we cannot fight. The council debated feverishly. Should they attempt another assassination? Ban humans from certain systems? Use fleets to intimidate them? Every plan failed in theory because humans' power was not in force. It was in connection, understanding, and resilience. No weapon could match that. No fleet could overcome it. Meanwhile, the galaxy began to notice. Alien worlds whispered of humans not as envoys, but as legends. Stories spread of a species that could calm armies, settle disputes, and unite enemies. Everywhere humans went, trust and cooperation followed. Old rivals began trading. Isolated colonies began communicating. The balance of power, carefully maintained for centuries, began to shift. For Lena, the work was not about fear or conquest. She moved with quiet purpose, believing in the potential of each species to understand one another. Yet, without intending it, humanity had become a force that the Empire could not control, a living example of strength beyond violence. The Council realized a terrifying truth. Humans were the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy, not because they destroyed, but because they inspired. Every action, every word, every small gesture had consequences that no empire could fully calculate. They were untouchable, unstoppable, and unstoppable in the ways that mattered most. As whispers grew into acknowledgement across the Empire, a single thought spread like fire. The galaxy would never be the same. Humans had arrived not to conquer, but to awaken something far greater than fear, the potential for unity, courage, and hope. And in doing so, they had become the Empire's greatest and most terrifying force. The Empire's leaders finally understood. They were facing a power that could not be measured in fleets or weapons. The humans had no armies, no starships, no bombs, and yet they were shaping the future of the galaxy itself. The galaxy was changing, quietly but unmistakably. Everywhere humans went, they left a mark, not through force or fire, but through connection. Ambassador Lena Riker and her team moved with careful purpose, often traveling to the most dangerous systems, where warlords ruled and fear reigned. To most species, these regions were untouchable. To humans, they were opportunities to build understanding. Lena entered the planet Varion 9, a world scarred by decades of conflict between rival clans. The streets were empty, the marketplaces silent, and the people wary of any outsider. Soldiers of the ruling clan observed from the shadows, their weapons ready, eyes full of suspicion. Most alien diplomats would have retreated knowing the risks. Humans, however, walked forward calmly, their heads held high, their presence alone commanding attention. "We come to speak," Lena said softly, her voice carrying over the tension. "We wish to understand, not to control." At first, the clans did not respond. Words were met with silence. Eyes glared, hands clenched, and the weight of years of mistrust pressed down on the humans like a storm. Yet Lena did not falter. She spoke of shared struggles, of hope, of the small things that connected all living beings: family, survival, dreams. Her team mirrored her calm, listening to every story, every grievance, every hidden fear. Slowly, the unthinkable happened. Rival leaders began to lower their weapons. Their voices softened, then joined in conversation. By the end of the day, agreements were made, promises exchanged. The clans had not only avoided war, they had agreed to trade resources and cooperate on rebuilding their cities. Word of the human success spread faster than any fleet could. Soldiers, diplomats, and leaders across star systems began to hesitate. Even the Empire's fiercest commanders found themselves questioning their orders when humans were involved. They had been trained to obey without hesitation, to strike without doubt. Yet humans had a power that could not be blocked by rules, ranks, or fleets, a power to inspire trust and courage in the hearts of others. The Empire attempted to counteract this influence. They sent envoys, spies, and even fleets to intimidate planets where humans worked. Every effort failed. Humans adapted with ease. Threats were met with calm observation. Bribes were met with polite refusal. Aggression was met with understanding. And in each case, humans achieved results that armies could not, alliances that soldiers could not force, and loyalty that generals could not demand. In the council chambers, whispers of fear grew louder. They are unstoppable, Admiral Kor warned again. Every attack, every scheme only strengthens them. The humans are not just surviving, they are shaping the galaxy. And yet humans themselves remained humble. They did not boast, did not celebrate. They treated each victory as a small step toward understanding, each negotiation as a chance to build trust. Their modesty only magnified their impact. Alien species, unused to compassion and integrity in leadership, found themselves drawn to humanity's example. On Varian 9, as Lena watched children playing in the newly rebuilt streets, she felt the weight of responsibility. Every action mattered. Every choice could ripple across systems, shaping futures. Humans had become a force not of fear, but of inspiration, a force the Empire could neither conquer nor fully comprehend. The galaxy was learning a lesson it had never known. Strength was not measured by fleets, weapons, or dominance. Strength could be quiet, resilient, and compassionate, and humanity, in its simple courage and clarity of purpose, embodied that strength in its purest form. By the time humans left Varian 9, war had paused, trade had begun, and hope had returned. The Empire, watching from afar, realized with a growing sense of dread that the humans' influence could not be stopped. They were not merely envoys. They were a movement, a living, breathing force capable of reshaping every system they touched. The resistance to humanity's presence had failed everywhere it was tried. And in the quiet corners of the galaxy, alien leaders whispered the truth that could not be denied. The humans were no longer simply ambassadors. They were the future. The galaxy held its breath. Every system, from the smallest mining colony to the imperial capital itself, felt the ripple of humanity's presence. Ambassador Lena Riker and her team had moved quietly, carefully, but the effects of their actions were undeniable. Where humans went, change followed. Not the change of weapons or conquest, but the deeper change of hearts, minds, and possibilities. Lena entered the council chamber of the Empire one final time. The room was grand, its ceiling stretching into impossibly high arches, its walls lined with portraits of past conquerors and rulers. For centuries, this had been a place of authority, of command, of fear. Today it felt different. The leaders of the Empire, once confident and unyielding, looked uneasy. They had seen what humans could do, and it unsettled them more than any fleet or army ever could. "We have come to speak," Lena said, her voice calm yet firm, echoing through the chamber. She did not shout. She did not threaten. She simply stated a truth that carried itself. Humans were not here to conquer, but to connect. "We do not seek power over you. We do not seek dominance. We seek understanding, cooperation, and the chance to work together for a better galaxy." Silence followed. The council had never experienced this. Commands usually carried weight. Orders usually demanded obedience. But Lena's words were different. They were simple, honest, and impossibly strong. They reached beyond fear, beyond pride, to something the leaders could not resist acknowledging. The truth of potential, the force of unity, the power of trust. For the first time, alien leaders did not argue, did not debate, did not try to manipulate. They listened. And in that silence, a change occurred. Seeds planted over years of patient negotiation blossomed in hearts that had never known hope. Systems began to reconsider old alliances. Rivals began to negotiate. The galaxy, held together for centuries by fear, began to imagine a different future. Outside the chamber, humans had become a symbol. Stories of Lena and her team spread from one system to another. People spoke of humans who could calm wars, mediate impossible disputes, and inspire courage in the most desperate hearts. Soldiers, once hardened by centuries of battle, now hesitated to fight humans, not because they feared them physically, but because they recognized a strength greater than any weapon, humanity itself. The Empire realized with growing dread that they were powerless to stop this. Humans did not need fleets, armies, or technology to change the galaxy. Every act of empathy, every careful negotiation, every courageous decision reshaped the balance of power in ways no one could calculate. They were untouchable, unstoppable, and undeniable in their influence. Lena looked across the chamber, seeing not enemies but potential allies. She understood the weight of responsibility she carried. Humanity's presence was no longer small or humble. It was monumental. And yet, she remained grounded, calm, and focused on her purpose: to guide, to connect, to awaken the better instincts in every species. As humans left the chamber, whispers filled the hall. Some called it fear, some called it awe, but all knew one truth: the galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had arrived, not to conquer, but to awaken hope, courage, and unity across the stars. The legend of humans had begun. They were not the strongest. They were not the fastest. They did not wield the deadliest weapons. Yet they were the most powerful force the galaxy had ever encountered, not because they destroyed, but because they inspired. And somewhere in the hearts of alien leaders, a silent acknowledgement formed: the humans could not be defeated. The humans would not be controlled. Humanity was the awakening the galaxy had been waiting for, a force of life,